The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon and welcome to another webinar with IPSE, and my name as the speaker is Luann Wise. Thank you so much for everyone that's joining. I can see quite a few people are still joining the session as we log on for 12:30. I will get started in just a second, but just to let you know that this is being recorded so that you can receive a copy of it to watch again afterwards, along with a copy of the slide deck. I will keep an eye on the question and chat box as I go through the session in case there's any burning questions, but otherwise my slides should hopefully take about 20-25 minutes, which leaves plenty of time for Q&A for as many questions as you've got for me, really. So the title today, how to use social media to find new clients. When we scheduled a series of webinars at the beginning of the year, this was a presentation that I had done once before, and I had a look at the slide deck over the past few days and realised that actually it needed to be very different now for the times that we're in. If you did watch the webinar I did a few weeks ago on how to manage and adapt your social media in times of uncertainty, you'll recognise a couple of the slides from there. I'll be able to give you a link to the recording of that if you did miss it. But in that session, I did talk about how we needed to make short-term changes as well as some long-term changes. And again, I'm going to look at both of those today. In case we haven't met before face-to-face or listened to one of my webinars, this is me behind your screen. I've got 20 years experience in marketing, working in agency, client side and consultancy roles. I am a chartered marketer and a fellow of the CIM. Even though I have quite a traditional, broad, general marketing background, my specialism is social media for business, and I've written a couple of books on the topic. I do also work directly with the social media platforms. I'm proud to be one of LinkedIn's online learning course instructors, which you can access if you have a premium account. I am an accredited trainer for Facebook and Instagram, a coach for Google's Digital Garage initiative, and I am also an IPSE ambassador. So I can still see more of you coming through the session and logging on, so thank you for joining us live. This session is being recorded. So the key point, how to use social media to find new clients. Well, what's really important, and this is the slide from the previous session, around people will still buy things during a crisis, but even if they don't, your business will be the first one they think of when the crisis is over. What is really important during this time, unless it's a requirement under your furlough situation, is that you do need to keep marketing. Just checking, I had a message saying someone couldn't see slides, but I think there's only one, so I think we're fine. So don't stop marketing, and what is important is that during this time and every time, before crisis, post-crisis, it's about staying visible. It's about showing up for when your clients and potential clients might need you. Right now, during the current situation we're in, it is important that when you show up, any content you're posting does take into consideration, is sympathetic to, acknowledges the current situation that we're in, which is still changing on a daily basis. That whether or not your business is impacted, your clients, your potential clients need to know about it. So do pin important information on your social media profiles. That's on your Facebook page and your Twitter profile. And if you have any information, then make sure that you add it to your website to let people know that you're still open for business or if your working hours have changed. And really key during this time, even though this presentation is about finding new clients, is actually what's really important during this situation, and is always important, is not to forget your existing clients. It's quite easy sometimes to kind of think that you always need new clients to add people into this funnel, which is what my previous slide deck was all about, a marketing funnel and how that worked. But right now, it's really important to focus on retention. We need to keep the clients that we have got, stay in touch with them, see what they need and how we can help them. Because actually, in my 9 years of now running my consultancy business, it's been my existing customers, their loyalty, that has generated referrals for my business. All of my business in 9 years has come from networking and referrals. So I would really emphasize that as part of kind of winning new clients, staying close to your existing ones and keep talking to them is really important. And during this time, again, I mentioned it on the previous webinar, overselling is tricky to do, can be a little bit insensitive sometimes, depending on what your products and services are. So this is a time to really think about kind of paying it forward, being helpful, offering people support, and most likely, instead of kind of going down the route of giving away everything for free and doing things for free, is thinking about how you can add more value to the services and the products that you offer. Lots of these kind of bullet points could be whole presentations in themselves, but hopefully some of the ideas will help you whatever situation you're in right now. Now, of course, in using social media to find new clients, it would be remiss of me if I didn't mention paid for advertising on the social media platforms. I'm seeing lots of ads in my feeds, as I always do, but perhaps more so right now. They have been adapted, and the content and the images sometimes nuanced towards the current situation that we're in. But if you do have products and services that work with advertising, absolutely do that to create new clients and sell more of what you're already doing. If you want more advice on online advertising, I'd highly recommend Facebook and their Blueprint series of online learning courses. But what I wanted to focus on in this session today is about building your business in May 2020. And what's important to understand is that everyone, we're all in this together, our needs and wants as customers, as business professionals has changed. Our behaviours has changed. What we need to buy, our buying processes, our budgets, the things that we need to help our business have changed. And how we deliver our products and services has most likely changed as well. Even if you were doing some online before, you're probably doing everything online, or perhaps you're on hold until lockdown starts to end. So what we really need to do for our own business and our customers is kind of refocus on who our target audience are and what they need for us. And also what's particularly important in our new ways of working is that I always think this is a key topic, and it is a topic that I'm talking about at National Freelancers Day on June the 18th, which I'll share again at the end, is about being productive with your time. So I know there's been lots of content out there during the last few weeks about being more productive, about learning new skills. And, some people are finding that more difficult. But it is, when it comes to social media, about not getting distracted, going down rabbit holes, and making the most of the time that you've got available for this process. So using social media to find new clients, my tips for this are about focusing on the social media platforms that are the right fit for your business. Social media use has increased significantly over the past few weeks. People may be trying out different platforms, but when promoting your business, trying to find new clients, it's important that you use the social media platforms that are right for your business. So focus where you're going to find your clients. And what's also really important, not just at this time, but always, it's a key point that I always talk about, is making sure that your profiles are ready to do business. Very often people set up social media profiles quite quickly, don't spend too much time on kind of about descriptions, bios, branding the headings, etc. I think this is more important now than ever, that you are ready to do business. People know that your profile is written for them and how you can help them, and it's relevant and branded. And if you need help with optimizing those profiles, on my website, there's a link in the further resources later, I have got a checklist for Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram, just to double check that you've set things up correctly. Using social media to find new clients, actually this applies to any marketing you're doing, whether it was going to networking events, in real life, activity, conversations, is that key point about visibility and showing up consistently. Not just showing up when you're quiet and then not showing up because you're so busy, you're working on projects, you don't have time to do it. You need to make this a habit. Helps you manage your time, but also because your peak periods and quiet periods will never align perfectly with new clients. So you need to be there for when they might need you. Absolutely have conversations about availability when you get contact, but do keep showing up. And I mentioned short-term and long-term. This is about building long-term relationships. Depends on your product and service, but most of the time, freelancers, IPSE members are focused on building long-term relationships with new clients, but also that reward from existing clients as well. So how to use social media? I think there's a few things to do here. And that is some of that time that you have available is dedicating that to listening proactively, setting up alerts, hanging out in groups, following keywords that your target audience may be using in their posts that you can respond to, and really focusing on spending some time looking for conversation triggers. I'll come on to what I mean by conversation triggers, but basically it's signals that people may be showing so that you can respond to them by being helpful. Of course, you can use the social media platforms. They all have search bars, search boxes. Some have advanced search. You can absolutely go on there and search for your target audience. You can absolutely send them connection requests and start following them or liking their page. But I think always the biggest turn-off in social media is when you receive pitches straight away. We wouldn't do this in real life. We wouldn't go straight up to someone and try and do a sales pitch. We would at least say hello, ask people's names, try and get to know them, find something in common first. And we should be doing the same thing on social media. Even if our business is in a really tough situation right now, going straight in with a sales pitch will turn more people off than it will get them to buy. So it's really important that when you're searching, connecting, engaging with people, any messages that you send are personalized. Anything is relevant. I've had so many messages that are completely irrelevant to what I do, what I offer, the size of my business, and it's clutter and noise. You do need to stay visible in front of those new people that you're connecting with and that you're following and that you're sending messages to, so they can get to know, like, and trust you with the other content that you're posting. But if you are sending messages, you are on that kind of business development drive, then just kind of hold it back, spend some time personalizing things, and wait at least a week or a couple of weeks before kind of following up. And I would always follow up by, again, trying to be helpful. This is what it's about, is offering information, ways to help and support each other for the long term, not a quick win. And of course, your news feeds, whichever platform you're using, whether you're using it on desktop or mobile, your news feed is where you are posting updates to stay visible in front of the people that you're following and connecting. That is important. What is important, again, is that consistency, that you show up regularly, whatever works best for you and your time and resources. So do post some updates about what you're working on, what you're planning, what you're inspired by or challenged by right now. And do try and engage with those people that you're following and connecting. Scroll through your news feed, like, comment, share other people's content if it is relevant to Wave your flag in front of them so that they know that you're engaging with their content, but also so that it's relevant to the other people in your network that will see it. And I also think it's important to highlight that everything on social media doesn't need to be so open, so broadcast for everyone to see. I see a lot of posts, particularly on LinkedIn, when people are kind of asking for recommendations, and then that person will just get kind of 20 or 30 names quite quickly that they have to sift through. I think it's important to remember and to consider that sometimes a one-to-one private message can be more meaningful. And if I was sending a private message in response to someone looking for a recommendation, I'm going to share so much more information in that message than I perhaps would do publicly. So don't think that everything needs to be so visible in the stream. We do business one-to-one, so we should message one-to-one as well. And then being more proactive, seeking out opportunities. And this is where I find setting up alerts really useful. Some questions coming in, but I am just going to hold those till the end and keep going with the slide deck. I've just had a glance at those. So setting up alerts I find is useful for kind of proactively finding opportunities and perhaps seeing what existing connections, contacts, clients, brands I'm working with are doing. Google Alerts are free to set up. You can set those up on people's names, on brand names, on keywords that are relevant to your industry and your sector. And then you can receive an email notification as and when anything appears on the web related to that topic. I find them really useful. I don't have to sit there and go out and find information. I kind of sat down for an hour or so, thought, what do I need coming into me, and set up those alerts. A tool specifically for Twitter, a screenshot at the bottom, Twilert, I think that's how you say it, is a paid for tool, but it's a tool that allows you a similar fashion to Google Alerts, which is anything on the web, that if anyone posts things on Twitter relevant to your criteria, you can receive a notification about it. And in this sense, it's much more refined than searching the platform itself. You can have keywords in there, you can have locations, you could also have sentiment. So you could have an alert if there was a question, or if there was a smiley face, kind of positive sentiment, or a negative, a negative fail kind of sentiment around it. So think about what alerts might be useful for your business and spend a bit of time setting those up, because they can provide opportunities for you to send messages and get involved with conversations. The real key to social media is the hashtag and keywords, because they help to search, they help to get content found, they help to group conversations. So again, as well as the alerts, I would think about what words people might be using on social media if they are posting about the needs that they have for your products and services, the challenges that they might have, what they might be writing about to kind of signal that you have a service that might be useful for them. And I was looking through my collection of screenshots and examples, and for me this was a great one on Instagram, where when I was writing the first version of my book a few years ago, I was storytelling what I do behind the scenes of my business. That's great content to always do. And I kind of posted a picture with a caption of 15,000 words ready, hashtag proofreading, hashtag nonfiction, editing, book coming soon. And a team of proofreaders sent a message asking if I needed a hand. I'd quite clearly given a signal of what I was working on, and they had a service that would have been useful to me. So it's actually a delight when you receive messages that are relevant to what you're talking about when you're sharing what you're up to in your business. So think about the service you offer and what keywords you could be listening to on Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn to see if there's something similar in that proofreading style that you might be able to respond with. Instagram, you can follow hashtags into your newsfeed. Twitter is an easier platform for social media listening, particularly if you are using Hootsuite. Again, I've mentioned this on various webinars before. In Hootsuite, I particularly like this platform not only because I can schedule, but because I can set up columns and streams for listening to either hashtags or to phrases or to specific accounts or sentiment as per the example screenshot on the slide here. I think it's important that when you're doing your planning and how things might be changing right now, when you're reviewing your target audience and their needs and your challenges, that you just think about what you could listen and the best tools for you to do it. The other place to go to on social media to find new clients and opportunities, but most importantly to be helpful, is Facebook and LinkedIn and their groups. So Facebook and LinkedIn have very different vibes to them, very different kind of style in terms of their groups, but ultimately people join groups to have discussions, to ask questions, to look for advice. It may be from peers, it may be from local business networks, it may be from their profession or industry. Groups have been set up for all sorts of things. If you're already in groups, it may be worth just having a look through them. Maybe it's time to leave. Maybe it's time to think about looking for new groups to see where there's opportunities to look for conversations where you can be helpful. Again, not overtly selling unless someone asks for an overt response, but just looking for opportunities to respond to. And again, almost in that same way of sending private messages, sometimes it can be useful to get your network, your customers, your referrers involved, because it can be helpful when they drop your name as opposed to you naming yourself. And I had a quick look again through my feeds as I was putting this slide deck together, and very easily, I live in Gloucestershire, I could see that there's a local Facebook group called Cheltenham Notice Board where people were asking for recommendations for a mortgage advisor, looking for a tree surgeon for after lockdown. If people are looking for something, they'll quite often ask a local group. If it's peer-to-peer questions, then they're often looking for advice and sources and information. And you can go in there and just be helpful and visible as someone that can help them and support them. An older example from LinkedIn groups, but completely valid, because just finding this one conversation in a LinkedIn group at the time helped my client develop a pipeline that lasted them for over 6 months. They knew their target audience was HR. They knew that there were specific LinkedIn groups where HR people went to have discussions. So we joined those groups and we watched the discussions that were taking place. And we happened upon this conversation that was about employee turnover, which was a solution my client provided exit interview software for. We were able to watch the conversation and the recommendations that happened. And then we were able to connect with them with a really personalized message that said, saw this conversation that you were having in this group, I'd love to connect with you. Offering a helpful resource. So not going in with an overt sale, but just saying why we wanted to connect and that we had a resource that was pertinent to the question they were asking, and then waiting a couple of weeks to follow up to see if that resource was helpful, if they'd made any decisions, if they could move it offline to a phone conversation, for example. But again, to get the most out of these groups, because it can be a bit of a time suck if you're just scrolling through, you need to have done that planning about what you're looking for and what people might be asking for you to respond to. Now, whether it's in your newsfeed or in these groups, as you're scrolling through, as you're looking for keywords and monitoring, what you are looking for is conversation triggers, that opportunity for you to get involved and show people who you are and what you do. And that's going to be great because you've set your profiles up correctly with professional photos and headlines and everything else for when someone's checking you out. Just as I showed in the Facebook groups, very often people will say, I'm looking for, or can anyone recommend? And that's a great opportunity because people want a straight answer to that. Have conversations when you make and receive new connections or new followers. You don't need to respond to anyone and everyone if it's a faster platform like Twitter and Instagram, but particularly LinkedIn. Don't just kind of tick accept buttons. Try and go back and have a conversation. I did this last week. I went through my LinkedIn invitations and just kind of said, thanks for the invitation to connect. Was there anything I could help you with? And everyone that had tried to connect with me last week did have something I could help them with. They just hadn't asked or put anything in that invitation request. And by acknowledging it and responding, I was able to have conversations with people and be helpful. And I'll be able to follow that up in 2 or 3 weeks' time to see how they got on. If anyone is mentioning you because they're sharing your content, talking about what you're doing, don't just sit there and kind of go, oh, that was nice. Say thank you. Anything you can do to have conversations and stay in front of people will be really valuable when they need someone like you. And for me, the biggest trigger on LinkedIn and the benefit of having a paid for LinkedIn account, if you are active and lots of people are viewing your LinkedIn profile, then absolutely who's viewing your profile is a conversation trigger that you can respond to. The question that I spotted earlier, which I will answer now, was how do you manage LinkedIn connection requests from someone who's not related to your professional area? Well, this all comes back to your target audience. You may have a target audience that is solely related to your professional area. If they're related to your professional area, they may be a competitor. If they're not related, they may just be looking for a referral or have heard about you. So I would just send a simple message back. Mine is, thanks for the connection request. I don't think we've met. Forgive me if we have. Just wondered how I might be able to help. And leave it in their court to come back to you. If you really don't think that there is going to be an opportunity to be helpful, then it's fine to ignore them. But just take control of the opportunity if someone has given you a signal. Another great question that's just come. When using the Instagram hashtag to comment on posts and offer my service, do you suggest setting up a separate professional account? Well, the first thing we do when we receive any notifications or conversations or messages is we check that person out. So absolutely, when I receive any direct messages offering help, trying to sell me something, I have a look. And if they haven't got the evidence, the social proof to back it up, then that puts me off straight away. If they don't have a professional photo and yet they're contacting me in a professional capacity, that will put me off straight away. That is why you need to have your profiles ready and be ready to do business. So just think about if someone's getting a notification and has a look at you, are you presenting yourself in the same way that you would do face-to-face for a meeting or attending a networking event? Some more questions coming through, but I am now on my summary slide just before 1 o'clock. So just to recap on this topic of how to use social media to find new clients, don't ever stop marketing. It is about being visible and being helpful. It's called social selling, about building relationships and focusing on the long term. There are no quick wins or silver bullets, unfortunately. It's always important to focus on the social media platforms that are the right fit for your business. As we've just covered, it's important to always be ready to do business, to make sure your profiles are set up, to be clear on what you're offering and who you're offering it to. But proactively, if you need to develop your business, you need to dedicate some time to listening. Social media is not just about posting content and waiting for responses. So set up some alerts, use Google Alerts, use Twi Alerts, set up keyword monitoring, follow hashtags, use Hootsuite. Hang out in groups if that's where you're going to find your target audience or insights that will help your business. And focus your time and energy on looking for conversation triggers that you can respond to, because people do business with people. They do business with people they know, like, and trust. And it's only having one-to-one conversations that businesses, freelancers, contractors, fellow IPSE members, that's what we need to be doing. So on to questions, which are coming through. Thanks for your tips regarding groups. However, how do you move conversations towards more onto selling your services? Well, hopefully if you're starting to have conversations and being helpful, you'll just get the opportunity to kind of say, do you fancy having a call to discuss that further? You know, here's a resource that might help. Let me know how you got on. Social media is really no different to face-to-face, other conversations, emails, relationships, trying to move them on. So just always try and think about what you want people to do when you send them a message. So if I'm sharing something helpful, it would be great just to say thank you, and or what did you find of most interest, and just trying to have that conversation to move things on. And the way we're going to move that on is hopefully picking up the phone, or what we're doing more of right now is having a Zoom call and just saying, would you like to have a chat about that? You know, I'd love to talk to you more about. I'd love to find out more about your business and how I might be able to help you. I've got some examples I could share. Would you like to have a call to discuss? Just think about it in conversation terms. LinkedIn Premier subscriber appears to be a limit on sending people messages if they're not closely connected. Yes, you can send unlimited messages when you are first level connections, because messaging is then a bit more like WhatsApp or texting or emailing. If you want to send messages to people, I would suggest that you find a reason to connect with them. Tell them why you would like to connect. It tends to be more in mailing, which is LinkedIn's own internal system, when you might want to not connect and send messages, is more when you're inviting people to events, or perhaps you're promoting an MBA course and you work within a university, for example. There is a limit within mails, which is 15 a month. But to be honest, you know, when we're service businesses, we're freelance, we're small, we're not looking for hundreds and thousands of leads and opportunities. So I would advise kind of focusing, but going for the connection first before you start kind of having business conversations. Just as I'm looking through the questions, I just wanted to share the future resources with you. You will get the slide deck, which will make the links work. It's links to my previous webinars, free resources on my website, which includes that download of a profile audit, a list of future events, and that I share a weekly email newsletter with updates, particularly on what's happening on the social media platforms. IPSE's website is updated daily at the moment with COVID-19 hub information, and there are specific FAQ pages around that, and of course their event program, which you can check out as well. And as I said earlier, National Freelancers Day has gone virtual. It's on the 18th of June. I will be running a workshop on how to be more productive with your time spent on social media, and there are lots of other sessions coming into the program as well. So do take a look at that link and register if you can. Okay, more questions. Some of my clients would focus on the platforms they personally like, because the more you're comfortable with using a platform, the more time you spend on it. It depends if you're like your clients, I guess. You know, if you are your kind of client and you would be part of your target audience, then absolutely you're going to be on the social media platform, which they also like using. But very often people find themselves more comfortable with Facebook because they've been using it a long time. But if they're trying to find more professional services, perhaps lawyers, accountants, people that you're more likely to find on LinkedIn, then sometimes you need to step out of your comfort zone and go where your clients are rather than the platforms you find yourself. It's a bit like face-to-face networking, and whether you go to something because your friends are there versus where you think you might find your target audience. So I think it's always about finding your customers in their playing field rather than expecting them to come to you. But of course, you need to be comfortable with what you're doing and how you're working the platform and getting that balance right. Can you connect with me on LinkedIn? Absolutely, but please send me a message so that I know that you've listened to this webinar and that's your reason for connecting. Is there a way to open a conversation with people who've looked at your profile on LinkedIn but not sent an invitation to connect? Yep, absolutely. When you are on your home screen of LinkedIn, looking at a desktop, down the left-hand side, you would see who's viewed your profile, different ways of getting to it, but you would see who's viewed your profile, up to 5 of those people if it's a free account, more if you're on a paid for account. Absolutely click onto it and you would be able to send them a message. There may need to be ways around it, depends on the type of account you are, but that's where to go to find them to send them a message. Do I post the same content on both profile and page on LinkedIn? Same question. I answer this one quite frequently. A LinkedIn company page and a LinkedIn personal page. Just as I've talked through this session, people do business with people, so you connect with people on your personal page. If you are a larger business, you would be using your company page as a content hub, so that then it's easy for your employees to share that content out to their own network. So do you need different types of content for a company page and a personal profile? It depends on the size of your business. It depends whether it's kind of corporate news or whether it's kind of personal. This is what I've been working on this week. Think about having a company page being a bit more like the about page or the press room on your website, and your personal page being how you connect one-to-one in front of someone or in your email inbox. They work in slightly different ways, but on LinkedIn, it would be very similar content. It just might be that you just switch the message depending on the size of your business. What does consistency look like? Well, it's what works for you. It's showing up regularly, whether that is once a day, once a week, once a month. It means not appearing everywhere when you haven't got any work on, and then disappearing for 6 months and then expecting to pop up again and go, I'm here, I'm available for work. Only post when you have something relevant to say to your audience that adds value to them, but consistency is what works for you. I would go, if you were asking me the question, at least once or twice a day on Twitter, if you can, once a week on LinkedIn, 3 to 5 times a week on Facebook and Instagram. But make it work for your schedule, not for anyone else's. Have I ever run out of things to post? No, because it's absolutely fine to repeat your posts. I've run this webinar before, I've run various slides from within this webinar before. It's all content that's very much around the core theme that you would find running through all my content. I just have to keep saying it and saying it in different ways for different people at different times. And it's absolutely fine to repeat things because people won't always see it the first time, or they may just need a reminder or two. When you post on LinkedIn, does it go to all the groups that you're in? No, you have to go into the groups to post within the group on the discussion. And of course, each group is likely to be different. You may have a peer-to-peer group, you may have a local group, it may be organised and run by different people. So you would have to go into each group to post. But I wouldn't ever recommend being in hundreds of groups. I would try and find perhaps 4 or 5 that are manageable, that you know are active, that have the right people in there, and focus on being active and a good group member in a small number of groups rather than trying to spread yourself too thinly. So 1:10. I think I've answered all of the questions. If you do think of questions afterwards, if you're watching this on replay, please don't hesitate to contact me, to connect with me on LinkedIn. If there's any more come through, we will have a look at those questions and come back with them on another session. But thank you very much.